Everyone, if you can come to order. Welcome to night 2 of our annual town meeting. The quicker you sit down, the quicker we start. The quicker we start, maybe the quicker we go home. I don't know. Maybe up to you. All right. Having been advised by the town clerk, Susan Galvin, that a majority of town meeting members are present, I hereby declare that a quorum is present for the transaction of business, and this meeting has resumed and is open. The meeting will now come to order. Welcome back, everyone, for a wonderful night 2. I had a couple of quick, very, very quick announcements, one of which was several people left things behind, personal items. So there was a folder, a jacket, different items. So when you're leaving, please make sure that you have all your belongings. And if you don't mind, our custodial staff here at the high school does such a great job. If you could just throw out any water bottles or soda cans, any kind of food you have, they'd really appreciate it. The second announcement I had is that the town reports you'll see are on the table over there. They're not going to be mailed to you this year. So if you can just go ahead and pick up a copy if you want one. I believe they're also available online. I just wanted to let people know that because otherwise you might decide not to get one thinking that it's going to come to your house. So go ahead and pick up a copy if you're interested. It's a wealth of information. New town meeting members especially, you can really learn a lot. The third thing I'll say is as a reminder, this was briefly mentioned yesterday, when you're speaking, please address all your comments to the moderator. People have been doing overall a really great job of that. It's one of our rules. And if you have any concerns about something that somebody said or an issue or, just anything happens at all, I really encourage you to reach out to me or, if appropriate, the town clerk, the town administrator. We're really happy to help you. I know that sometimes things can get a little heated or whatever, and so just my mention of civility again. I know we talk about it a lot. Everyone is really great. I really appreciate it. And so if you have any concerns, questions, or something that somebody said didn't sit right with you, just please feel free to let me know. And with that, we will move right on along. So where we are right now, for those of us keeping track, which is everybody, is Article 17, which is the Board of Health appropriation. I would ask if the select board has anything to say to this article, which you can find on page, yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was so excited to get started. We didn't test your clickers, and Mr. Mallett has a great question for us today. So if everybody can use their clicker. Did you eat Mexican food on Cinco de Mayo last Tuesday? A is yes, B is no, and C is abstain. It's hard to remember back that far, but if you can remember, go ahead and click yes, no, or abstain, or you can click nothing to abstain. And if you have any issues with your clicker, please go ahead and see Mr. Mallett. Well, not very many people did. It was 106 no, 49 yes, and 11 people abstained. So we're going to run through your names. If your name isn't as you indicated here, if you voted a different way or it doesn't show up that you voted, you have any issues at all, please go and see Mr. Mallett up to the left of the stage. Mr. Mallett, people have indicated that they're having a little bit of trouble seeing on the projector. I don't know, Ms. Bosworth or Mr. Mallett, if that's something we could just move over a little bit, I believe, to the right. Is that working better for people? Oh, the first letter of people's names isn't showing? Oh, it is. Okay, great. Thank you so much. If anybody had any issues with their clicker, please go ahead and speak with Mr. Mallett. Otherwise, we're going to move zip, zip, zip right on ahead into Article 17, which I was so excited to get to, and it's the Board of Health appropriation. So Article 17 is on page 44 of your warrant, and it reads, to see what sum of money the town will appropriate for health and sanitation for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2026, and to act on anything relating thereto. And this was submitted by the Board of Health. I'll ask if the Board of Health actually would like to speak to this article. They're here and available. Otherwise, we will move right over to the Select Board if the Select Board would like to speak to this article. Would the Warrant Committee like to speak to this article? Okay, then I will open up for discussion. Ms. Stillman, I remember you from yesterday. If you would like to speak, you may go ahead and do so.
Yeah, Lori Stillman, Precinct 2. I just wanted to say how excited I am that the Health Department creatively was able to move around some money to institute a parent newborn support service program. This program will allow nurses to go into people's homes who've just had babies to make sure that they have the best possible start that they can in life. You know, the Warrant Committee aptly noted that the amount of time being devoted to this, which is only about 4 hours a week, is barely enough to really make an impact. And I'm hoping that maybe in the future we can find some more funding for this and other public health programs. There are so many other kinds of health and wellness programs that our community are just not taking advantage of that other communities do. But at the same time, you know, I was reflecting yesterday about Mr. Fundling's presentation and our future funding forecast. And one of the things that struck me is that our town is kind of in a cycle of at best, doing level funding from override to override. And I say at best because what happens is we pass an override, and the next year we're sunk again in the next year because our revenues don't meet our expenses. And so over a period of time, another override comes about, and we're doing level services based on cuts that have happened in those intervening years. And so there's so little possibility of supporting new and innovative programs in our community. And so I would just ask that the select board and our new members who bring new skills and things like strategic planning and financial planning and bringing people together to try and think of new ways of doing things, that we hopefully can reimagine our community to being more than just doing the same old, and doing some more creative things to help better our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stillman. Would anybody else like to speak to Article 17 regarding the Board of Health? Okay, seeing none, we will move to a vote. The vote is the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, which is that the town appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading recommended FY 27 as set forth in the warrant, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $474,974 be raised from the tax levy. And I will go ahead and open it up for a vote now. The article passes 99% to 1%, 179 yes, 1 no, 0 abstain. Thank you. And now, Articles 18, 19, 20, 21 were all on the consent agenda. So we're going to skip right ahead to Article 22. Article 22 can be found on page 50 of your warrant. And the article reads, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the support of schools for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2026, and to act on anything relating thereto. And I believe Mr. Loring, who is the chair of the school committee, has some things to tell us. Mr. Loring, you are recognized.
Good evening. Mark Loring, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 8, School Committee Member, and recently appointed Chair. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I want to first start off by just acknowledging Amanda Serio. She's a former School Committee Member, our former Chair, who did not seek re-election, stepped aside, and just want to acknowledge Amanda for her great 2 years of service to the Milton Public Schools and the School Committee. Also want to acknowledge our new school committee member, Stevie Caldwell, for joining us. We're already giving her all the work. Acknowledge my other school committee members as well and all the work they've done over the past year, Anna Varghese, Lizzie Carroll, Nathan Hutto, and Bao Chu. Just really appreciate kind of their partnership. Also want to quickly acknowledge our interim superintendent, John Phelan, assistant superintendent, Carla Koza, and assistant superintendent, Katie Blake, who are here part of the school department. Before I jump into my slides, I do also just want to take a moment to thank Katie Blake. Katie Blake will unfortunately be departing us for greener pastures here at the end of this year, but it cannot be understated kind of the work that Katie Blake has put in here over the last 2 years as Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations. Her guidance and leadership through a very challenging financial time, which I think many of you are quite aware of, has been just invaluable, and the district is definitely in a better place because of the work she did. So just take a moment to thank Katie very much. All right, and now we have a little bit of a presentation to give you all an update of what we've been up to, what we will do. This is going to be kind of just the 3 things we're looking to cover. And for the first thing, I'm going to pass it over to Interim Superintendent John Phelan.
Good evening. Thank you, Mark. John Phelan, Interim Superintendent of Schools. I, too, want to start with a few thank yous. Very appreciative of the Milton School Committee for bringing me to the district. I appreciate being here as a resident and as your interim superintendent. I also would like to thank the Select Board and the Warrant Committee for the work that we did this year on the budget. I look forward to partnering with them moving forward. Specifically, like to thank Nick Milano, our town administrator, for his steady, consistent leadership and partnership that he's had with the schools. Very much appreciated, Nick. Thank you very much. To our community, our town meeting members, community members, parents, and guardians, thank you for all your support with the schools. Whether you are voting for an override or making sure that you're volunteering for a booster event, a PTO, the MFE, which we had the 30th gala last week, or supporting any one of the student groups in Milton and supporting its schools, thank you very, very much. The biggest thank you goes to the override that was voted in the spring of '25, so thank you. The Milton Public, thank you very much. We value the partnership that we have with all of our departments, whether that's the police, the DPW, fire, and also consolidated facilities. All of the departments in the town support the schools every day, and we're very appreciative. And as we think about that collegial approach, I want to echo the words of our Select Board Chair, Winston Daly. That's what makes this town a great town. Very proud to be a resident. I'm very proud to be someone who has worked for the public schools and continues to work just for this short time. And lastly, I want to thank our educators, the teachers, the staff, our colleagues, our custodians, our food service workers, our paraprofessionals, our nurses. All these folks have worked tirelessly to ensure that your children are well taken care of. They do a fantastic job. That person who cleans the auditorium, as was pointed out by our moderator, is Judy Whalen. She lives in town. She's amazing, and she's here working tonight. We also have folks who work. We have Elaine Moore, who lives over by Tedeschi's, and she works in food service. She's unbelievable. So thank her tonight. If you have been privileged to be a member of the Tucker School, you might know Sundari Barker, who's probably one of the best teachers in America. Give her a round of applause tonight, and all your other teachers. And when you see administrators, please thank a principal or one of your Unit B members who's helping with curriculum in our early literacy. So thank Kat DeRoche-Young, and thank someone like Holly Concannon. So thank every administrator. Thank you to all of our staff. They're really important folks. So I get the fun stuff tonight. I just do the highlights, and Mark is going to do the heavy lifting with the numbers. So I'm very thankful to Mark for that offer for town meeting. The Milton Public Schools mission is behind me. The Milton Public Schools mission is to educate, challenge, and empower all of our students, productive, caring, and contributing members of society. And when I arrived in June, we worked with the leadership team, and we asked them what they wanted to focus on this year. And they prioritized providing Tier 1 grade level instruction to every single student. Make sure our students are learning grade level standard-based material. Everybody deserves to be in front of Tier 1 instruction. We also want to use data to make sure that our students are learning and find out, if they aren't, what we can do to support them. So we need to use data to do that. And one of my favorite priorities is rigor. We need to challenge our students every day. We need to make sure that we're asking them to do more in a way that stretches their learning. If we expect it, then they will step up to the plate. So we are asking for rigor from our students every day. And we also want to make sure we take strategic action steps, not talk about, but take action steps to ensure that any and all of our underperforming students are working towards grade level achievement. And lastly, while we do that, we want to continue to make sure our schools are places that are safe, that are engaging our students in a way that make them feel ready to learn, and welcoming to our families, parents, and guardians, and the public. So this is what we worked on this year. This is what we will continue to work on next year. And I thank Katie Blake and Carla Cosa, our team, for supporting that work, and all of our leadership team. And like Mark, I want to echo Katie's great work last year and this year will be sorely missed as she moves on to her professional journey. So Katie, thank you very much. The Milton Public School profile, if you look on the Department of Elementary Secondary website, sees us in data form. We're obviously more than just data. We'll show you that in a moment. But we do have 4,358 students. We do have 6 schools. We are a public district, and we are pre-K to 12. You can see the breakdown of our enrollment by the aggregate and by some of the subgroups that we work with every day. Every number on this list is a child, and every child on this list that we work with, all 4,358, deserve to be engaged at a high level, deserve to be cared for and challenged every single day, and they are. Some of the quick highlights that we want to show you and show off a little bit is at our elementary school, one of the high-level academic fun activities that we provide is future problem solving, which all 4th graders do, but when you get into 5th grade, you can compete. And we're very proud to announce that all 4 schools made it to the state finals. In one team, our team from Tucker, 4 students made it to the international finals, and they'll be going down to Indiana to compete internationally next month. So we know when that group runs for town meeting, they'll have all those future problems solved, and we'll be all set, and we can do this remotely. At the middle school, we do great things every day. Bill Fish and his team provide a wonderful opportunity for that middle school age student. And we want to make sure we emphasize that the academics are great. What goes on in the school building every day is great, but they get outside and they exercise some muscles around debate, political acumen. And this 8th grade team went and participated at the U.S. Senate debate at the Edwin M. Kennedy Institute in Dorchester. The team took part in a simulated U.S. Senate session. They have a beautiful site there. If you haven't been there, you should. And the students considered issues that were actually on the Congresses in the Senate table in Washington and competed against other schools. So congratulations to our 8th graders over at Pierce. And lastly, it always comes to sports and drama and music at the high school. Our theater team was a semifinalist last year. They were the finalists this year in a state competition in Boston. The theater department is second to none in this state, demonstrated by their work with a play that was recognized as state champions in the state of Massachusetts by the Educational Theater Guild. Incredibly hardworking students after school every day. In our girls hockey team, provided great excitement at the Boston Garden and won the state championship after losing in the state championship last year. So a big round of applause for all of our students. Our students are learning in the classroom, but more importantly, they're learning by things that they do after school in clubs and activities and athletics and drama and band. Academics is vital, but those other parts of their day are great learning opportunities as well. So we truly appreciate a budget that supports not only the classroom rigor and expectations that take place in school every day, but also the things that happen after and before school. Some of the data as our grade 2025 grade goes out. In 2025, we had 265 graduates, 90% of whom enrolled in 4-year college or university. 7% of those graduates attended a 2-year college, 1% of those planned military service or trade school, and 2% planned on a gap year. This year, they're working on the PowerPoint that they send out, and they have every student's picture and what their plans are for next year. And I went through that PowerPoint before tonight's presentation and noticed that, you know, we have students going to MIT, we have students going to Providence, we have students going to BC. We have students going to Cornell. We have students going to St. Anselm's. We also have a young student, a young female student, who's going into the union to be an electrician. Good for her. Good for all of these students, no matter what they do. They're being encouraged. They're being supported. And if that's their journey, we want to make sure we can support them in their journey, make sure they feel welcome and heard, and support their dreams. So thank you for supporting the Milton Public Schools. I appreciate it. And Mark, thank you very much for the next part of the agenda.
It is tough to follow that because I just got numbers. So before we get into this year's numbers, just want to share a look back. Some of you might remember I was up here in front of you about a year ago. We were talking about a bit more of a dire situation, problematic situation with the school budget. Luckily, we have better news this year. But we wanted to look back at some of the things we talked to town meeting about, the things we promised town meeting that we were working on, that we would be doing, and give an update on kind of where those things stand. So this is the list of things that we presented last year at town meeting that we said the school committee, the school department was going to work on to implement to improve school finances. We thought these were priorities that would help stabilize the budget after 2 years of budget overruns, which were very impactful to the schools, but also to the town. And so you can see the green check mark by each of these because every single one of the things we told you we were going to do, we have done over the last year. And so we're very grateful for all the work of the various members of the school department and the school committee who put into that. We took the issue and the feedback we received from the community, and again, what we saw the impact was very seriously, and we worked very hard to address it. And once again, can happily say we are on much better footing. Again, the last bullet, especially ensuring the school department ends FY26 on budget. Katie Blake presented the Q3 budget report at our last school committee meeting, and currently we project to be under budget by about $35,000. So that is great news, as it should be. We also continue to try and strengthen our engagement around our budget. We know the schools are a big fish within Milton. We are a large part of the budget. We touch a lot of lives. And we need to get a lot of community members involved in what we're doing, how we're spending the funds, how we're being responsible, sharing that information. And so that includes reaching out to the public at large. That includes partnering with the wonderful warrant committee, and I can't thank them enough for all the work and effort they put into learning about our budget, partnering with us, giving us feedback. That includes partnering with the select board, and again, can't thank them enough for the constant conversations. Even when we disagree, we ultimately come to agreement, and so I appreciate all that work. So there's a lot of iteration, a lot of input that we get and we take very seriously to try and create the best possible budget we can for the schools, for our kids, and for the town. Which brings us to this year's allocation. So the allocation, the starting place for this was these budget priorities. We established as a school committee 4 budget priorities that we wanted to focus on. We established that before we got into the budget process because we wanted to make sure the decisions we were making were being guided by an overall philosophy. And so you can see a lot of these priorities are aligned to the things that Superintendent Phelan shared earlier around the district priorities for the year. And so we tried to make sure there was alignment there in what the district was trying to do, what the school committee was trying to do with these budget resources. So everything we looked to allocate, reallocate, change around was done with this lens in mind. Here's the high level of what the percent increase is for the schools. I think it was referenced earlier by the warrant committee chair. And so that is what we're getting, a 3.76% increase. It is slightly less than our level service budget by about $1 million. And so there were some reductions we needed to make within the school committee budget, within the school department budget in order to reach that number, some operating cuts, some staffing reductions. However, we're still very excited about what this additional revenue means for the schools. We know the funding is tight. There are lots of needs, as one of the public speakers mentioned previously, about investments in the health department. There are all kinds of things that the town of Milton certainly would want to do, could do for residents, and we appreciate every dollar that goes to our kids. And these are some of the things that we are really trying to target in terms of our investments for next year. Really looking to strengthen our focus on teaching and learning so that we can support rigor in classrooms, we can improve academic outcomes for kids. We're really looking to improve teacher collaboration and invest time and resources to making that happen so teachers can work together to improve their instruction, work on curriculum, and figure out how we can do better day by day for our kids. Target investment, some resources at the Tucker School, which is having some, needing some additional support in terms of bringing students up to grade level. We are you saw in the previous slide, we have 618 staff members within our department. We had a part-time HR staff member. It was just not enough. It was not respectful of our staff, our employees, the leaves, all the policies, all the reporting that we have to do to the state. And so that was something we prioritized to address that, because that also kind of relieves some of that off of our assistant superintendents and our superintendents so they can focus on student learning. And the last one was access to school buses. That's been a kind of continued pay point for some families in terms of getting kids to schools, and we are happy that we were able to prioritize some investment of adding an additional school bus in hopes of reducing the wait lists and making sure we are prioritizing getting kids to school on time because we know how important student attendance is for their success. Again, these are the overall numbers in the table. You can see our last year's budget, what the additional allocation is for this year, and then again, what we had to do in terms of investing in some new areas, as I just hit on, some reductions we needed to make, and some other kind of cuts and offsets. So that's how we got to the number. Overall, again, we are very proud of this budget. We worked very hard on it. We tried to balance, as I said in a prior slide, making sure we are putting the district on stable footing, looking at the long term and also looking at the short term and the urgency of addressing student learning needs. Every year, every moment, every day for kids is important, is vital. We need to move on that with urgency. And at the same time, we need to make sure we are establishing a strong structure with Milton Public Schools with their finances so that we're not having roller coasters, we're not having up and downs, we're not having deficits and coming to the town meeting needing bailouts. So those are things we thought about, and again, hopefully you will support this budget. I do want to take a moment just to echo John, Superintendent Phelan's point around thanking our staff, our families, our students. There is no Milton Public Schools without our staff, our families, and our students. They work incredibly hard, and we are very, very grateful for everything they do every day for our kids. So thank you very much, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Loring. Mr. Daly, would you like to speak? Mr. Funley, would the Warrant Committee like to speak? No. Okay. Are there any questions on Article 22? Mr. Hiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Bob Hiss, Precinct 3. I have some comments, Madam, a question and some comments. First, I'm very glad to see Superintendent Phelan back here. I got to know him a little bit when he was principal of Pierce. My older two were going through, so my wife and I are big fans. And my comments tonight really started with pulling on a thread. So what started with this is I went to page 88 at the back of your warrant, and you'll see the head count that's here. And I'm a numbers guy. So I went through instructional staff, the second row. In the year ending 2020, it was 313 people and change, and it's gone up to 348. So we have 35 more teachers. In my business career, a common question was, if you're going to get more inputs, what are the outputs you're going to get? So I started looking at what kind of outputs has the town achieved over the last few years. And so I went to various websites, including DESE and others, and pulled up some data. And I'll share some of this data with you. The first, I just talked about enrollment, and the superintendent mentioned this. We're currently at 4,358 people right now. Back in 2020, we were 4,431. So we've decreased our population by 73 overall. I looked at the PK through 5, and this year, this is 2026 data, we're at 2244, if my numbers were right. Back in 2020, we were 2396, so we're down about 150 on that, the younger children, which is some of that. Is that going to be a story that's going to come back to talk about when we get to future articles about the new building? So we're down 70 overall, we're down 150 at the younger grades. So there's some top level numbers. Then I started looking at other metrics, MCAS, accountability, attendance, dollars per student, and just some numbers. So back since 2019, which is as far back as I could quickly see, at the district level, our English has dropped from 71% to 64 in 25. Our math has dropped from 69% to 60% in 25. Only science has gone up from 65 to 71. By the way, that's consistent at every school except for one. Collicott went up 1 year, and science has gone up in general every year. So again, a lot of the budget presentation is about what are we putting into the system. And my question is, it's superintendent's first year, so by the way, my comment is, I'm going to vote for this budget because he's a new leader and he needs time to go implement his changes and see change take effect. So I'm not offering amendments. I'm just saying I'm in this for 3 more years here, and I'm going to be watching to see how this works and see if we get some changes. Here's some other numbers. Attendance, we're doing well there. We were at 96.4%, we're up to 96.9. That's good. You can't learn if you're not in school, so good for the parents, good for the kids, good for the teachers. It's a good environment. That's great. Accountability is something the schools look at in terms of the progress you're making toward your goals. So in 2020, we got a score of 66% from the state. There was nothing during COVID, so 20 and 22 were blank. In 23, we were up to 78%. Then in 24, we're down to 74%. In 25, we're down to 70%. So if you look at MCAS scores in English and math have gone down, science has gone up. Accountability, which is our progress before Mr. Phelan got here, have been going down. And yet our per student dollars, and these are federal, state, and local dollars, in 2021, we spent about $14,500 per student. In 22 is 15,600 and change. Went to 18,900 in 23 and up to 20,900 in 24. So we are almost up at the state levels on a per student basis. So I know when I was moderator, there were some questions about our per student spending. We've caught up now. And you can see it getting caught up in the head count, probably the number of students, the teachers that are there. So the question I have then, before I get to my other comments, are what kind of outputs do you think these levers, these inputs you have, are going to, how are they going to show up and perhaps in some of the metrics that the state watches? Because I'm a public school kid right through college, so is my wife. All our kids went here. 2 of them went to public universities. So I'm all in on the public schools as a citizen, as a parent, and as a resident of this town. And I think as a customer, I think many of us are parents. We've had kids here. We all are as well. We want this to succeed. So perhaps you could turn the inputs into outputs, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Hiss. Mr. Phelan, if you can answer that question, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
John Phelan, interim superintendent of the Milton Public School. Mr. Hiss's data is accurate. We are a district that needs to be paying more attention to not only what we are doing for students each day to take care of them and make them feel safe and valued in school, but also challenge them. And if you see in the priorities that we showed earlier, we are focusing on Tier 1 instruction, which means all students should be looking at grade level standards that they're going to be tested on. We want to make sure they're in classrooms with teachers that are teaching all of our 3rd graders the 3rd grade ELA curriculum, the 3rd grade math curriculum. We want to make sure we're supporting them and scaffolding them. And when you have high expectations, it has to come with high support. So when you have a high expectation environment, you also have to acknowledge that everybody's not at the same spot. So that staffing that we're utilizing is to engage and scaffold that learning with that support. High expectations, high support. The next thing that we're doing is we're actually, some of the budget material that we went through this year was realigning some of our positions to actually make targeted, take targeted measures in order to look at different parts of our curriculum, ensure that students will be getting a better academic experience. One of those things would be the purchase of our early literacy program that the town so generously funded with the override last year. That is a huge win for the district. We are teaching phonics. We are also teaching this new curriculum starting next year, and we really hope that new reading program will see acceleration for all of our young learners. So, Bob, in general, our 5 priorities, I think, speak for themselves. We are creating a culture where students are expected to come in and be engaged at a high level, supported at a high level. Our teachers are really asking great questions. They're asking for support. We're providing that support. They're all on board with the 5 priorities, and I think all of those things in concert will begin to build traction into reestablishing our outputs at a higher level. So we are excited for the work that those teachers are doing. We're glad that our students are engaged at a higher level, and we'll continue to use your resources very, very thoughtfully and very much in a targeted way to ensure that our students are leaving with the best education they can. But we will do it year by year, month by month, and week by week. So thank you very much, Bob. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. I see that Ms. Christensen is down to the right. Ms. Christensen, did you have a comment?
Well, could I offer my follow-up?
Sorry, I thought you were getting up to leave. Sure, you can
Yeah.
offer your follow-up, and then we'll go to Ms. Christensen.
Thank you. How am I doing on time, by the way?
You have spoken for 4 minutes and 41 seconds.
Very good. And by the way, an example of outcomes, when my friend Mr. Walker, I think you were chair of the school committee, it might have been 12 years ago, he came before the body and said, we've got a challenge with early reading among our young African-American kids. And he said, if you give me $500,000, I'm going to get tools, I'm going to get teachers, and I'm going to train them in this stuff, and I'm going to move the reading scores. And to me, that was, I'm all in. I'm a business guy. That's what I was looking for. So I think the levers you've got, Superintendent Phelan, I think are going to be helpful. I really look forward to seeing those results. A second comment is just going back to the comments of the chair of the warrant committee, whom I admire. I appointed Mr. Fundling when I was moderator because I knew he was an analytic. He's an actuary by training. He'd done billing work. I knew he had an ability to go pour, you've seen it over the years, go through the data, munge the data, come up and tell a story with it, very effective. The point I want to make is the budgets we have are not immutable laws of nature. They do not fall like gravity at 32 feet per second per second. It's not the boiling point of water at sea level. They are things we choose to do. And what I'm hoping is that we'll look at these budgets over the years, and if we are seeing the results occur, then we keep investing, and if we're not, we need a different change. If I saw numbers in my business like I saw here, I would be pulling principals in, I'd be looking at individual teacher performance, I'd be tracking that back over time. You'd be like a dentist, you drill into the numbers and find out what's going on. So I'm hearing that kind of analysis going on, and I think it's very encouraging. I'd like to just close with a story, because something happened during this election cycle I found disturbing. When I ran 10 years ago, I held a fundraiser, and I'm not going to have any names here, but one of my friends introduced me to a citizen. Never met him before. Nice gentleman, wrote a small check, very appreciative. We chit-chatted. He asked about what I was going to do as moderator, et cetera. And that was it. About a month later, I got a call from a family member of this citizen saying, Bob, we supported you for moderator. Now I want you to put my family member on this board. A direct quid pro quo request, because money had changed hands. We'd never discussed it, had never come up before. I was kind of surprised by this, and I said, well, excuse me, one, that's unethical, and two, you're not qualified for that board, because there's actually statutes around these things. So here's my concern, and I won't name names, but during this last election, some candidates who won either sought out or accepted support from the Milton Education Association. And my concern is that there will be an expectation of a return on that investment when topics come like negotiations or staff reductions or budget allocations. I think it's a difficult thing to resist when you want to be popular and get elected again. And the result of that is some of their opponents, they went to a different union and they got their endorsement. I'm just very saddened that this has now entered into our town politics. What was supposed to be nonpartisan, neighbors helping neighbors. Now we have public employee unions, not the citizens who live in our town, like the superintendent named, who could support a candidate. That's the democratic way. But now we have public employee unions extracting dues from their members, with or without their consent, and now investing somehow in the outcome of our elections, and they're electing the people who are going to be on the other side of the table.
Yes, if we could, Mr. Hiss, with a lot of deference, because you are the former moderator, if we could wrap this up, because I do believe that the scope is a little bit questionable. So if you can just, we're getting closer to time too, so if you can just wrap up this line, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a tempting thing. I'm sorry to see it. I wish it hadn't happened, but here we are. I hope it doesn't get repeated again. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hiss. Thank you. Ms. Christensen, you are recognized.
Cindy Christensen, Precinct 7. I appreciate what Mr. Hiss just said, and I have similar concerns. I do think that it's a relevant topic, given that I believe the concerns have to do with the school department budgets. I was not a town meeting member last year. Had I been, I'd be one of the town meeting members who stood up to say we need a forensic audit of the school budget. We have not had one. There was a budget process. It was not a forensic budget process, and I believe we need one. I also think we need an efficiency study. I absolutely am impressed with the warrant committee's chair's work. And what I love about what he does is he's very clear with us about what his assumptions are. So if we agree with the assumptions, we follow his numbers. If we disagree, we recalculate them to fit our knowledge or our expectations. The thing that I didn't like was that it was focused on how can we get more money, not there was very little said about how can we reduce spending.
Ms. Christensen, can I ask you a question? Are you speaking right now about the presentation of the warrant committee earlier during Article 1? Or are you talking about the school budget right now? I'm just trying to understand.
There's an overlap.
Okay, go ahead. Can you get to that overlap and then please continue?
Sure. Given that the budget of the schools is a major portion of what our taxes go for, I think Mr. Fundling's work is very appropriate. So, number one, I would ask for a forensic audit still. I acknowledge all of the work that's been done over the last year that's been presented. I don't think it's enough. I think a 3.6% increase is excessive. If you have relatives or friends who are on Social Security benefits, their increase was 2.5%. So basically, everything that they got this year went to pay for the override that Milton accepted and taxed people, basically for the schools. So, two things I think are still needed: forensic budget and an efficiency study. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Christensen. Mr. Fahey, I see that you're waiting to speak. We all know how I feel about clapping, although it was a good commentary, but go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Sean Fahey, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 9, and also a member of the Planning Board. Just a couple of comments in regard to our member that brought forth some data. But before I get there, count me, and my wife Janice also was a big fan of Superintendent Phelan. Love the fact that he's back in town and appreciate his leadership. Second, like our speaker just mentioned earlier, huge fan of public education. I have two girls, graduates of Milton, Kate and Kira. Fabulous, and Kira will graduate from the Eisenberg School at UMass in a week, and I credit the Milton Public School System for Kira's success. So thank you for all that has been done for my girls. The information that Member Hiss brought forward was really good information, and I think each one of us understand the importance of measuring progress in all parts of our lives, but absolutely for our students. And my suggestion is that rather than have a member bring forward this data in the form that Member Hiss brought it today, I would ask that it become part of our report. You know, each time at town meeting, when we bring our progress to town meeting, so the members can recognize the progress that we're making and the data points, whether it is, and I won't recall all of what Member Hiss had stated, but The accountability factor is an excellent factor. These are all, it seemed to me that Superintendent Phelan not only recognized the data points that member has mentioned, but acknowledged their accuracy. So if that in fact is accurate data, I think it'd be great to bring that as part of the report to town meeting, so none of us have to go search for it. We can see it as it's presented to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fahey. Ma'am, you're recognized.
Hello, I'm Kendra Quincy Knopf, Precinct 3. I guess I'm a little confused about what we're discussing, because what I'm hearing is information about the school budget, and then I'm hearing information about the rising costs of employment as employment in the town, right? So the teachers, the policemen, the staff at town hall, everybody, DPW. I don't remember this last night, and I'm confused about why it's being addressed regarding the schools. And so I don't know if I'm allowed, Liz, to ask, Madam Moderator, to ask this, if I'm able to ask the people who've spoken about that, if this is specific to the schools or if this is specific to the employees of the town. Yeah, thank you.
Well, personally, I'd prefer not to go back to, I think it's not really addressing it to the moderator. It's more kind of commentary back and forth. I see that Mr. Fundling might have a comment. Did you have a comment, Mr. Fundling? Were you just standing up? One of those two things is true.
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. Jay Fundling, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 3, and Chair of the Warrant Committee. I wanted to address not the previous speaker, but one of the earlier speakers who said that, sort of asked what is a reasonable inflation number for the schools. That's a question that I asked myself a few months ago and presented some information I have to the Warrant Committee. I can't see behind me. Are you sharing? Okay. There is a slide I'd like to share. I don't know how much it costs to run a school. I don't know what a reasonable inflation number is for a school from year to year. The only thing I can do is look at other schools and see what they do. I'll admit this is a bit of a hodgepodge of a list of towns. It's a list that the Town Government Study Committee looked at a few years ago. It's a list that Mr. Milano keeps of peers. It's Hingham had a list of peers. I grabbed their list. It's a bit of a hodgepodge, but hopefully you'll agree that these are towns that are comparable to Milton. And so again, I don't know how much is reasonable for inflation in a school budget, but I looked at these. I looked at them over a 5-year period. I looked at that because a lot of these you look at them and they'd have a 10% increase in one year and a 0% increase in the next year. So I smoothed it over 5 years. All of these are, I can't see behind me and I can't see in front of me, but I'm going off memory. They're all in the 4.5 to 6 range. In fact, the minimum, and you'll forgive me, this is going off memory, the minimum was Sharon. I'll tell you the reason Sharon's increase is so low, no, thank you. The reason Sharon's increase is so low, when you start high enough, you don't need to grow that much. I do think we should be prudent. I do think we should look at cost savings. I do think we should look at efficiency. We have 6 elected school committee members who have multiple jobs, but that is one of their jobs. They are all answerable to the voters. That's one of their jobs, to make sure our spending is efficient. And this reassured me that at least we're in the right ballpark. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to you, sir, and then ma'am in front.
Hi, Kevin Hardy, Precinct 1, Town Meeting Member. I really like the data. I'm a data guy too. I've been working in education since 2008. By no means am I an expert, but I've worked kind of across the globe, in Africa, in New York City, and I can just say part of that data is due to a lot of learning loss from the pandemic. And so when we start looking at data and we start looking at outcomes, let's make sure that's taken into account, because when people talk about how we're going to get back to those good numbers that we were talking about 12 years ago, it's going to take more investment. And so I would just caution, let's not, you know, we have a lot of work to do, but those numbers are skewed quite a bit because of the pandemic.
Thank you. Ma'am, you're recognized.
Hi, my name is Lexi Bergeron, town meeting member for 4A. Thank you, Kevin, fellow town meeting member. Similarly, I'm up here to say something quite the same. I'm a public health and social work professional. I'm not an educator, nor am I a researcher, but I would like to speak to the comments regarding MCAS metrics. There's volumes and volumes of research out there that point directly to the learning loss related to when we were in the COVID pandemic. And the expectations are that it will take over 7 years, if not longer, for students and school systems to recover. The expiration of federal pandemic aid, as well as decreasing school funding, is directly threatening all of these recoveries that the schools are going through. While we all want our schools in Milton to be successful and I believe that we have wonderful schools, I found it a little bit disingenuous to criticize Milton Public Schools for the fluctuating MCAS scores while we are still in this period of recovery. Finally, Milton is not unique to these struggles that were happening, as we can see that they're happening all over the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bergeron. Again, the clapping. Go ahead. You're recognized. It just takes like 3 seconds, you know. We're trying to move along. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Cedric Jacobson, a town meeting member for Precinct 10. I wanted to stand to speak in favor of this vote tonight. I think we just heard about the increase in budget being a little bit conservative, honestly, compared to a lot of peer districts in the state. I also think similarly, if we were to look at the relative metrics cited by some of the other members of town meeting, we would see that Milton is outperforming peer districts. There are dashboards where you can look at this data. I just spent a few minutes pulling them up, but things like chronic absenteeism, we're rebounding faster than our peer districts. If we look at third grade literacy, we're yes, we took a hit and the absolute numbers are not where we want them to be, but we are rebounding faster than peer districts. And so just like we needed the context for the percentage increase, I think it's very important anytime we have a database discussion to also consider the broader context of education in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Ma'am, you're recognized.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Lovely, town meeting member, Precinct 9. I actually do know a thing or two about this because I have been in education for almost 25 years. I'm not a lawyer, unlike everybody else in this room. But I do have 2 degrees in acting, so I could play one on TV. But anytime education is discussed at town meeting, I have sort of a visceral response to it. And anytime somebody talks about outcomes, I also have a visceral response. As a college counselor for almost my entire career, I look at data all the time. And one of the things that I look at is not just quantitative data, what'd you get on your SAT, what's your GPA, but qualitative data as well. What are the outcomes in terms of who you are as a person, in terms of where you're going, what are you doing after high school? And to Mr. Phelan's point, we have kids from Milton going on to various colleges. 90% of students are going to 4-year colleges and universities. That's an unbelievable number. I grew up in rural Maine, and I think that number at my high school was probably in the 40s, maybe. I think that we need to hold ourselves to an incredibly high standard and also appreciate that the kids coming out of here are going on to do unbelievable things. I work with kids from most of the districts that were just highlighted up here, including Milton, and it astounds me every day that Milton, despite being on the lower end of what we spend expenditure per pupil, still tends to outperform in terms of curricular rigor, especially when you get to the high school. I was doing some quick looking when I was sitting up there, and I would need to double check this, so don't post this all over Facebook, but I'm pretty sure that Milton has the higher number of AP classes offered than almost every one of its peer schools. And I can say that because I also work with kids from all over the world, and I am astounded every day at what Milton High and let alone Pierce and the elementary schools offer. So I can't sit there and listen to just negativity around education. And I appreciate that we always have to be digging into numbers. I own my own business. I understand that. And I have to get up here and be the biggest support for our school committee and for everybody here who really supports public education in this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lovely. Do I see anybody else who would like to speak? Are you coming down to speak regarding the school article? Yes, go ahead. You're recognized.
Hi, Mark Croninger, Precinct 7. I'm a big fan of Milton Public Schools. Both my sons went here. I've supported every single override that's ever been put forth in this town, including the last one. I don't think that speakers who present facts are necessarily being negative. I think they're just throwing this stuff out there for debate and shouldn't be scolded. I think that the most common sense thing that I hear from people in I'm Precinct 7, everybody's afraid they're going to be taxed out of this town eventually. There are only so many overrides we can keep doing. Last night I was watching the presentation talking about, when's the next one going to be, 28, 29? And I also think what was said in that presentation was, this doesn't include funding for a new school or the fire department. How much blood are we going to get from the stone here, people? Like, I'm in my 60s, okay? I was hoping to retire in Milton. I paid for my house, bought it, everything. These days, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, because if this incessant parade of overrides and tax hikes go, how are we going to afford to live here anymore? And that's what some of the older elderly people that have lived here since the 30s have been telling me when I've been out meeting with them. So I think what's needed is a major dose of common sense. If I could buy everything I wanted, do everything I wanted, God knows I'd do it. And if we could all have everything we wanted, we would do it. But there's a give and take with everything. And I don't think it's negative to pull facts out or to have accountability or expectations. I was in business for 35 years. We got our asses, pardon my French, we got ourselves pulled into meetings all the time with regard to numbers and accountability, what we were spending things on, and what the outcomes were. Whether or not those were jaded by COVID, okay, the whole state was jaded by COVID. In fact, the whole country was jaded by COVID, so understood. But I don't think we can perpetually go to the well with overrides and tax increases and expect the taxpayers to keep sucking it up. And I am totally pro-school. Both my kids went to Milton High, all the schools. Mr. Phelan was at Pierce. My kids went a long time ago. And they did very well coming out of here. And I applaud it, and I always support the schools. But you have to realize that it's not carte blanche here. We can't have everything. And it's not fair to we've heard a lot of thank yous over the last 2 nights. What about a big thank you to the taxpayers of this town who continually come to the plate, support overrides, and support the taxes that we pay in this town, which are creeping up, creeping up, creeping up. So in any event, that's all I have to say. Nobody's anti-school for asking questions. They're trying to make things better and trying to get accountability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Croninger. And now we have the 2 ladies over here on the left, 1 and 2. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Margaret Carrolls, Precinct 4. I will be supporting this very conservative school budget, and I want to thank everybody for all their work, all the questions, all the data crunching that goes on by various people around town. I just want to say, I hope that we can focus our attention on state funding and health insurance, whether that's state elections, federal elections. This is where we need to focus our attention on. We're not going to find money under stones here in Milton. We need to pay attention to what's going on in Boston and in Washington. Please focus your attention there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carroll. Ma'am, you're recognized.
Hello, Christine Turnier, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 4 and 4A. I want to take a minute to acknowledge that the school did actually come and ask for more. And when the school committee looked at the budget, realized it wasn't something we could support, our district was asked to make choices and ended up cutting positions from the school. And I want to point that out because I think it runs counter to a narrative that we have, that we can't have everything and we need to make cuts. We are making cuts. And I think the idea that we are spending madly and wildly, it just isn't true. I do agree that we need to start thinking about, we can't keep coming back to and raising taxes for our citizens. I get that. We need to start thinking about, as the previous speaker said, other forms of income and other forms of tax revenue throughout the town. We can't always get it from income tax, but I really would encourage people to realize that we are making tough choices, and those tough choices impact our kids. I have kids who are currently in the public school system, and I go into their elementary school regularly, and I see the impact of some of these cuts. Yes, they're getting an exceptional education, but they're doing it with some very limited resources. I think that we have been very honest with ourselves. We've made some tough choices. We can't continue to expect revenue purely from our citizens. We do need to explore other forms of taxes and other forms of revenue, but please do not imply that we are somehow or another spending negligently on our public school systems when we have asked and the school system has come back and made cuts. That is an unfair narrative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turnier. I'm going to keep saying it. Please stop clapping so much. Ms. Christensen, would you, Dr. Christensen, would you like to be recognized?
Cindy Christensen, Precinct 7. I do have two questions, particularly after the last speaker mentioned the cuts. It says on one of the slides that was presented by the school committee, position reductions over $700,000 and $673,000 other operating cuts. My questions are these. Were those positions actually filled positions, or were they part of the excess that was added during COVID? In other words, did we lay people off, or were these positions that were currently not filled? And then if you could explain what was cut under other operating cuts, I would find that helpful.
If either the chair of the school committee or Mr. Phelan. Thank you.
John Phelan, interim superintendent of schools. The positions that were reduced from FY26 going into FY27 were the following. Director of Data and Analytics, that was a person who's currently employed with us who was reduced right before April break. Director of Fine and Performing Arts, which was not filled. It was vacated during the school year, and we did not fill that position. Equity coach, that was that position was left unfilled in September, and we did not fill it for the next school year. 504 coordinator, a 1.0 position, educator, that was a reduction. That person was reduced right before Christmas, April vacation. Academic tester, that person was reduced right before April vacation. Out of district coordinator, that person was reduced right before April vacation. Special educator, district-wide, that was a vacancy from last year that we did not fill. An elective teacher at the middle school, that person got a layoff notice right before April vacation. High school English teacher, Milton High, that person got a layoff notice right before April vacation. To let folks know, and to the speaker, that we have been responsive during this budget season to listen to our families. We had many school committee meetings where folks came and asked us to reconsider reductions. We have reduced positions that are some of which were vacant, more so others that were filled by staff that we appreciate and value that are now unemployed. We also reduced non-salary items like professional development, text purchases, and I think legal assistance in those lines that would be non-salary based. We also increased fees for buses. We increased fees for our rentals in order to try to provide revenue on that side as well. So we took a multi-pronged approach. We reduced, we realigned our budget, we increased fees, and we reduced salary and non-salary lines.
Thank you. Sir, you are recognized.
James Jenkins, Precinct 3. Love a good debate, but I want to re-emphasize a couple of things. If you're for leadership and Mr. Phelan, I think you would get the message that came out in the school presentation of it takes everyone. Leadership is aligning people together to work together. It's a fallacy to think that one superintendent comes in here and does a silver bullet to make a rescue plan. I love Mr. Phelan. I was in the PTO, Pierce PTO meeting the next morning after Mr. Phelan sent an honest email about the challenges that had been raised. And I watched over the months how a lot of people worked together to solve those problems in creative ways. So it's blindsided to think that one person solves a problem. In that Pierce PTO meeting, I want to show you one of the best forms of leadership is the Step Up program from elementary school to middle school. It's elementary school and middle school principals and teachers working together to create a process for students to arrive and succeed at the middle school. And it worked really well. And now they're doing it at the high school level. And what that is process. That's collaboration. That's working together over time to look at data and prove things. And that's what's happening in our town. Number two, you can think about performance and outcomes on state statistic data. One of the challenges is that getting those numbers back in real time from the state performance tests, it takes a long time. So it's hard to get that. If you want to look at the numbers and the performance, come to the school committee meetings. They're public, and all of these things are transparent and happening. It's just, you just haven't been there along the way. And that's okay. Come. Some impressive leadership happening. The other way you can think about outcomes and performance is a foolish way of thinking about what college placements people get into. And I loved that Mr. Phelan said, this woman is going to become an electrician. That doesn't measure anything next to Harvard or the Ivy League, but it's awesome because an individual has found a path to success for life, to make an income, and to make a difference on what they want to do. It's electric.
Taking a really long pause.
I raised money for schools. I have been a teacher, and I understand outcomes and performances. There's one outcome you want for your kid, and that is for them to have the character and the independence and the responsibility to be independent citizens. And to be an independent citizen, you are involved in a community because you can't succeed on your own. Whether you're the superintendent or the CEO or the billionaire, whatever it may be. So I agree with Miss Lovely that it's hard to just sit here and think in foolish ways about what leadership is, what outcomes are, what performance is. Let's talk about outcomes. Number one, we're number one in the state for women's hockey in the TD Garden. We're number one for performance of plays. That hockey coach is my daughter's middle school teacher. He's the best teacher for her. If you want to talk about these things, put them together, performance and numbers in context. The other number one I hear is one HR person, one finance person. You can't run a high-performance business on that. 600, 700 employees. Put it together. I'm sorry to get fired up. I think I agree on the same principles of leadership, performance, outcomes, all those types of things, but we've got to work together on it. I think the last thing that gets me fired up is we should never think of education from a capitalistic consumer model. We should not think about customers. These are people being transformed. The product is the child. Every person, the janitor, the person serving food, the person picking up the bus, the person standing in the street to stop fast-moving traffic is educating our children. And it's just so much more that we can do and believe in. It's so much more great stuff happening. Part of it is about being there and actually seeing it. I am not the most efficient person. Bill Fish is the most efficient principal school leader that I've seen. I love it. Come into a meeting, you're in and out, things happen. Leadership is about getting other great people to stay, join your team, and keep going. And we can do that. And being elected town meeting members is not the same thing as being the CEO. It's easy to kind of sit in the galley in those types of things. That's why we put people in the seat to do the work. Let them do their jobs. Come to the meetings. Participate as a community in the work. You're wasting energy if you're looking backwards. We're going forwards. Let's do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins.
I just want to say briefly, I love your passion, but I think something very misunderstood is I know, so many that have gotten up and spoken tonight are incredibly involved. They go to all the meetings. They've held office. Their kids have been involved in the school system. So this isn't anybody coming up and stating anything without a ton of involvement and care and consideration. And no one is faulting. I think one of the biggest things I see all the time is most of us, we think the schools are incredible and our kids are getting an excellent education, but sometimes we speak to them in what we need as if they're not. So I just wouldn't discount what people are saying tonight as if they're not involved or they don't know the whole picture, because there's a lot of involvement. But perhaps there's just some trust that needs to be rebuilt. There's questions being asked because there's a lack of trust, and maybe you haven't seen that. Maybe you haven't seen why. Maybe since your time in being involved, you haven't witnessed why that might be. But there is really good reason for it. So some of this is just reinstilling trust in these systems and what's behind it.
Yes, I'm sorry, ma'am. You didn't say your name. We were all so interested in what you were saying, so even though I know who you are.
Andrea Lizio, Precinct 7.
Thank you, Andrea.
Akwawo Ebong, Precinct 1. I think we're missing the whole point here. I think the problem is the revenue and our source of revenue. I think we need to come back as a group and say, what kind of Milton do we want? Must all revenues come from our taxes? Can we get some more corporate involvement, like spaces where companies can pay a little bit into the pot. Is there federal revenue we should go after? If all we're trying to do is tax ourselves to meet the high quality that we want, then this is going to be a vicious cycle. We'll keep fighting ourselves. We want the best schools. We all love schools. But we cannot always add to what we need to keep the schools that good. So I would strongly recommend, irrespective of what side of the aisle you are on, I'm not sure if it's Fenlon or the moderators, whoever it is, let's set up a committee to look at how do we raise money without having to go add more to our taxes. Think of it. You want your kids to have the best teachers, right? That costs money. We want police. That costs money. Are we all willing to pay for this alone? Most of us run businesses. So let's think outside the box. Where else can we get money to fund this so that we don't keep fighting ourselves? I respectfully yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egbo. Any other comments regarding Article 22? And I know that was a fulsome discussion, and I really appreciate everybody's passion and overall civility regarding that. So thank you so much, because I know that's something that people really, really care about. So seeing no additional commentary, we're going to move to the vote. The vote on the floor is the recommendation of the Warrant Committee, which is that the town appropriate the amounts shown in the following tabulation under the heading Recommendation Fiscal Year 2027 as set forth in the warrant, and that to meet said appropriation, the sum of $75,613,973 be raised from the tax levy. And we will now open the vote. Vote in favor 97%, 200 yes, 4 no, and 2 abstain. Now we will move right along. Articles 24 were in the consent agenda. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28, which brings us to Article 29, which is on page 58 of your warrant, the PEG Access Enterprise Fund Appropriation. Again, that's page 58 of your warrant. Article 29 reads, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate from the PEG Access Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2027, cable-related purposes consistent with the town's franchise agreements with Comcast of Milton, Inc. and RCN Telecom Services of Massachusetts, LC, including but not limited to support of public, educational, or governmental access cable television services, monitor compliance of the cable operator with the franchise agreement, or prepare for renewal of the franchise license and to act on anything related thereto. This was submitted by the Select Board and is a majority vote. Would anybody like to speak? Would the Select Board like to speak on this article? Mr. Daly? No. Mr. Fundling, would the Warrant Committee like to speak? No. Okay. I will open this up for discussion. Ma'am, I'll start with you on the right, and then we will go to the left.
Oh, great. Thank you. Deborah Felton, Precinct 2. I would like to get a report from, I suppose, the Select Board or Milton Access TV on what the future looks like As it is stated in the comment about streaming services and that, so MPEG is missing funds for people who do not have Comcast anymore, and they do not have that revenue. So I'd like to find out who's thinking about the future of MPEG and how we think we're going to fund going forward. Thank you.
Mr. Milano?
Thank you, Nicholas Milano, Town Administrator. So what we prepared quickly today is just a summary showing what our receipts have looked like going back several years for PEG funds. So for a little background, PEG funds are collected on cable bills. So if you have a cable account, you pay a public education government access fee that comes to Milton. We then transition that over to Milton Access TV to help support their staff and their capital investments. And they produce hours upon hours and upon hours of video and programming. So the way that works and the changes that we're seeing that Ms. Felton alluded to was that as people cut their cable accounts, that has a corresponding effect in terms of the amount of revenue that we'll bring in. So as you can see here, our largest supporter or the largest cable provider in Milton is Comcast. RCN has a smaller amount, and that has really collapsed pretty quickly. The number of Comcast subscribers has dropped to just around a little bit over 4,000 at the last count. The bar graph just shows the total revenue that we've seen over that duration, and while revenue has remained, I wouldn't really call it steady. It's not dropped necessarily precipitously, but it has not gone up significantly. So we're basically at the same place we were 8 years ago, and we're really starting to see the acceleration as people move to just internet-only accounts. That is going to put continued pressure on our ability to support Milton Access TV. So I don't think we're standing here today with a real clear answer as to what that means in fiscal 28, 29, or 30. It's something we're acutely aware of. We had a report from both Shane Brandenburg, the executive director, as well as Michael Lynch from the board at the select board meeting, I think in March, where we talked a lot about this and some of the legislative action that the local cable entities or the local public access entities are advocating at the legislature to try to find an alternative revenue source. So somebody who has cable in their house, like I do, I'm paying a fee. Somebody next door who has internet to their house, while they're getting internet from fiber that's strung over town streets on utility poles, there is extensive infrastructure in the right-of-way. They're not paying any fees that transition down to the local government. So the public access groups at the legislative level are trying to readjust that playing field a little bit, but the bottom line is this is a bit of a coming issue for us fiscally. We're going to work closely with Milton Access TV to stay on top of it, and so I don't have a clear answer, but this is just an expression of where we've been, what's going on, and that we're well aware that this is a potential financial challenge over the next couple of years, but I think we're all keenly aware of the value that Milton Access TV provides, not only for town government, but also school sports and the general programming. And it's an incredible asset that we have, and we're so grateful to the work of Shane and his team. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milano. If you want to speak, you may. Thank you.
Hi, Deborah Milbauer, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 4, and member of the Board of Health. I'm going to stick with the theme of highlighting under-resourced departments and programs in our town. So I'm rising really just to speak on my own behalf and not representing any other roles I might have. This is just for me tonight. So I rise to bring attention to an invaluable resource in Milton that we rarely talk about, which is Milton Access TV. And thank you for teeing that up for me, Town Manager Milano. I'm going to read a letter I wrote to the Massachusetts Senate Ways and Means Committee a couple of months ago to advocate for more resources for Milton Access TV. But before I do that, a couple of things of context, which actually was just explained, but I'm just going to add a little bit more to what was just explained. So, okay, so there's two legislative bills pending right now in the State House. One is Senate number 2556, and the other is House 91, called An Act to Modernize Funding for Community Media Programming. So both Representative Richard Wells and Senator William Driscoll Jr. have signed on to these bills, so thank you. These bills would charge a user fee on streaming services, which you just heard, like Netflix or Hulu or HBO Max. This fee would be in addition to the fee that is charged now that people pay for cable that you just heard explained. So the cable revenue has been going down, and and so this would be a way to supplement that with the streaming. Milton Access TV and the town would benefit from the bill's passage, as the town would receive money from these bills. We're talking about where we get, money out of a stone. This would be revenue from the state. On the town side, this money could be used for projects similar to the new firehouse, meeting room, and other IT infrastructure projects. Milton Access TV would get back to a level of funding from 10 years ago, and thus allow them to hire more staff and be more financially stable. So that's the context. So here's the letter that I wrote. Dear Massachusetts Senate Ways and Means Committee, please support the Act to Modernize Funding for Community Media Programming. I'm reaching out in support of our treasured town resource, Milton Access TV. Milton Access TV produces and creates an enormous volume of content and offers an invaluable service to the town. Their contract should reflect this incredibly valuable resource, and their revenue stream should as well. Their YouTube page has 3,700 videos and over 2,000 subscribers. They broadcast 24 hours a day on 3 separate channels in 3 categories: ensuring government transparency, amplify local voices through original programming, and teaching media creation. They have a searchable archive that remains accessible for years at a time. They live stream government meetings. So wave, thank you. They're doing it right now for us. They cover sporting events, teach skills classes for the community to create their own content. They edit and post content that others send their way. They post upcoming schedules, and they advertise important community notifications and public service announcements, all free of charge, by the way. Their studio has been home to many creative, innovative programming that our own residents produce with the patient help and support of Milton Access TV staff. And their studio location at Pierce Middle School and Milton High School is a unique resource for our students. With no exaggeration, Milton's democratic process could not function without Milton Access TV. They live stream and later post recordings of the major boards and committees and others when they can. They record select board, school committee, planning board, board of appeals, conservation commission, and all annual and special town meetings. They recently hosted and live streamed and posted 2 wonderful candidate forums in collaboration with the amazing Milton High School debate team and the Milton Times. What an amazing collaboration to uplift our very democracy so voters in town have the information they need to make informed choices. Their service is absolutely indispensable to the community, yet they only have 4 staff to juggle it all. I am amazed at how much they do so efficiently with so little. And I can tell you from personal experience that their turnaround time is pretty fast, as someone who checks for a meeting that I missed in real time but don't want to miss the recording. As I quoted to this body before, and as the Washington Post aptly says, democracy dies in darkness. I ask this body to call or write in to support the state bill to generate revenue from outside of Milton and ask you to support their budget tonight in order to give Milton Access TV the robust resources they need to continue lifting up democracy in Milton and the many other cherished services they provide to town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Milbauer. Would anybody else like to speak?
What are the bill numbers again, so we know what to write?
I'm sorry. Ms. Milbauer, do you mind coming back down? We had a question. Can you tell us the bill numbers of the
Gladly.
potential legislation that's
Yes.
coming down? Thank you, so
Yes.
everybody can hear.
Yes. Can I? Okay, it is, thank you for asking, State House Bill Senate, so S2556, Senate 2556, and House, so H91. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions about this article? Okay, seeing none, we can move down to a vote on Article 29. The motion on the floor is the Warrant Committee's recommendation that the town vote to appropriate $500,000 from the PEG Access Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2027 cable-related purposes, consistent with the town's franchise agreements with Comcast of Milton, Inc. and RCN Telecom Services of Massachusetts, LLC, including, but not limited to, support of public educational or governmental access cable television services, monitor compliance of the cable operator with the franchise agreement, or prepare for renewal of the franchise license. And we'll open that up for a vote. And the article passes 201 yes, 2 no, and 2 abstain. That was Article 29. Article 30 was passed by consent, so we move to Article 31, which was removed from the consent agenda. I believe that you can find it on, yes, you can find it on page 60 and 61 of your warrant. And the article is to see if the town will approve projects and grant funding as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for fiscal year 2027, provided that all approved projects must enter into a grant agreement with the town and submit regular progress and budget reports and to act on anything related thereto. A total of 11 projects are recommended, for which $1,051,823 is to be provided through CPA funds. And you can see a table there below submitted by the Community Preservation Committee. Would the Community Preservation Committee like to speak on this article?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We would. My name is Tom Callahan, Precinct 4 Town Meeting Member and Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. I want to thank fellow town meeting members who pulled this out of the consent agenda to just give us a little opportunity to focus on CPA. It is still a relatively new law in Milton, and we like this opportunity every year to be able to speak to the body, speak to those listening at home about the good news of the Community Preservation Act. You'll hear me in a few minutes, hopefully on Article 32, but I first wanted to give everyone just a brief background on CPA. It was passed here in Milton, or it was passed statewide in the year 2000 and signed into law by Governor Cellucci. It gives cities and towns in the Commonwealth the ability to ask voters if they want to raise funds through a small surcharge on the property tax and a state match for housing, open space and recreation, and historic preservation. Milton voters overwhelmingly approved CPA in 2020, and since that time, town meeting has awarded, if this article is approved, nearly $5 million for 50 different projects across town. Projects like the 36 affordable apartments at Winter Valley, now for seniors, now under construction. New softball and baseball dugouts at Kelly Field. Restoration of the Forbes House barn into a great new community space, and many, many others. We want to thank the voters of the town for supporting CPA, and we want to thank town meeting for your consistent support of the recommendations from the Community Preservation Committee. And I'll be back for Article 32.
Thank you. Would the Select Board like to speak on this article, Mr. Daly? Mr. Fundling, would the Warrant Committee like to speak on this article? Okay. Then I will open it up for discussion, and I see Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, you're recognized.
Leroy Walker, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 10. My question, similar to capital for Mr. Callahan, is I can see what's recommended. Were there other priorities that you were not able to fund?
Thank you for the question. I also forgot something as well. I was going to highlight a couple of the projects on this list, but thank you for your question. We received, I believe, I have this number right, a grand total of 13 applications and funded 11. So we did not fund 2. One was withdrawn, and I actually don't remember the other one, but for the most part, we were able to fund the requests this year. We've been funding a high percentage of the requests, not 100%. We have turned, some requests have not been eligible for CPA, and other requests not quite ready for funding, but we have been able to fund most of the requests, but we know there are requests coming. I think as we have talked to residents in town, there's tremendous interest in CPA. I think there's a growing awareness of this fund, and both on town department side and on the resident side, I think there's a number of folks that are planning future projects. So we have about $1 million every year with the state match to fund these projects, but in the future, I think more revenue in the fund would be even better. I did want to highlight a couple just small, not small projects, a couple projects just that are on the list and in your warrant, but keeping with the Marita Manning Croning love from last night, she was the primary proposer of the Pine Grove restoration at Winter Valley. So we have proposed that, which was, I think, we did Marita did a site visit with us at the Pine Grove Restoration site at Winter Valley, and I think it's an important beginning of restoring that beautiful part of the Winter Valley property. As a former Tucker parent, the Tucker School Playground Project is really exciting. It becomes the 4th elementary school, again, with your vote tonight, that we've been able to fund the improvements to the play spaces. The committee there has worked so hard and has gotten so much support, and we were very proud to be able to make a $102,000 recommendation. The Motsett River Estuary Conservation Commission project, Arthur Doyle, and others deserve a lot of credit for bringing this forward to create a new recreational resource into the estuary. The last one I'll mention is one of my favorite projects actually this year. The select board, town administrator Nick Milano, the Christine Stanton and the Council on Aging, and the Town Center Neighborhood Association, all coalescing around improvements to the basketball court and creation of a new bocce court. So it's a combination project that seniors, or the older adults that Council on Aging can use, and other folks can use. So a combination bocce and basketball courts in the town center, which is, I walked over that court today. It's such an eyesore, really, and this is going to be a really great improvement to that, that neighborhood. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Mr. Leroy, Mr. Walker, did you have anything else to add?
All set, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions on Article 31? Okay, I see none, so we'll move to the vote. The motion on the floor is the recommendation of the Warrant Committee that the town vote to approve, the projects, funding sources, and amounts shown in the tabulation as printed in the warrant under the heading CPA Project Funding Recommendations, and that all projects must enter into a grant agreement with the town and submit regular progress and budget reports, and each project shall be a separate appropriation. If you can go ahead and vote. A is always yes, B is always no, C will press nothing for abstain. Approved 199 yes, 4 no, 2 abstain. Moving to Article 32. As Mr. Callahan mentioned, he'll be back. This is the Community Preservation Committee projects. I want to let everybody know that this is a 2/3 majority vote requirement to pass. The article reads, to see if the town will vote to renovate Wharf Park and to authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, to borrow under the Community Preservation Act a sum of money to fund such renovation and apply any net premium and accrued interest received as a result of such borrowing to the costs of the project and reduce the borrowing authorization by the same amount and to act on anything related thereto. As this was submitted by the Community Preservation Committee, I invite Mr. Callahan back up to speak on this article. Mr. Callahan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We have a short presentation, emphasize short. My name is Tom Callahan, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. Great. Let me just formally thank my fellow members of the Community Preservation Committee, Wendy Garpo, Peter Jackson, Rob Luvash, Kathleen O'Donnell, Stephen O'Donnell, Robert Powers, Jenny Russell, and Cheryl Tagayas. This committee has been, since its inception, working well together, and what other committee has $1 million to give out? It's been a really pleasure to see all the residents come forward and with their ideas and projects to improve Milton. So thank you, fellow members. This is when I didn't think I was going to speak on Article 31 because it was in the consent agenda, I just wanted to give people, we give this every year, but this is just the distribution of that. Again, now that you have approved Article 31, this is an accurate total for the 4 years of just shy of $5 million, as you can see. That's the distribution, 45% to open space and recreation projects, 32% for community housing, 22% for historic preservation, 50 different projects. Thank you. So we're here tonight for the first time asking for town meeting to approve a bonding article for $750,000 to fund what will become, we believe, a signature outdoor space for the town, the rehabilitation of Wharf Park. This project started with Scott McKay and the Milton Farmers Market and others who came to us with an idea to improve this unique space at Milton's only public waterfront access point. The improvements will make the park more suitable and safe for the farmers market, of course, but it would also create a more usable space for other programming and the enjoyment of our residents. Scott is here tonight to answer any questions about the improvements, if you have them, but I wanted to go to the next slide, and here is what we're asking town meeting to do tonight. We are proposing to bond $750,000 for Wharf Park renovations. There is a total project cost of $1.2 million, so this is a substantial part of the project cost, but there's also substantial private fundraising and private investment going into the Wharf Park renovations as well. The debt service for this bond will be paid for totally by the future CPA revenue stream. Depending on decisions that the town treasurer and others, our consultants make about the bonding, we're expecting an annual debt service of about $70,000, I'm sorry, per year for 15 years. But that could fluctuate a little bit, but that's in the ballpark of what we're talking about in terms of the debt service on the $750,000. There'll be no impact on your tax bill or future town borrowing. This does not cut into the ability of the town to borrow for other projects because of the dedicated revenue stream of CPA. So this is kind of set aside, not a general obligation bond. The bond will be combined with other borrowing to lower the administrative costs, and the CPA administrative funds can pay for our portion of those administrative costs. There's 201 communities that have passed CPA. The majority of them have bonded. So this is not an unusual or unique transaction. Many communities have come before us and have bonded for projects in their towns, many times, multiple projects. And so we're in good company in terms of that. It happens to be our first proposal, but it is not a unique thing to have done in a CPA community. So that's our request. I will just end, I guess, with the last slide with a commercial to bring us your projects. We are in the Oakland eligibility application stage right now. They are due on May 29th, the initial eligibility applications. Full applications, if a project was approved as eligible, are due on September 25th. All of that information is on the CPC website, on the town's website, CPC page on the town's website, and we appreciate your support for CPA, and we would recommend a yes vote on this bonding article. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Mr. Funley, does the warrant committee have any comment on this article? Okay. The select board? No? Okay. In which case, I will open this up for discussion. Would you like to speak to this article, sir? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The chair did mention that.
Can you just say your name? I'm sorry.
Brian Kelly, Precinct 7. The chair did mention that other communities are doing this. My research didn't locate any local community other than Quincy that is doing this. So my concern is this is a significant turning point for our Community Preservation Act. Basically, we want to put a mortgage on our parks now. When the voters approved the CPA in 2020, many of us in this room that were here then believed it would support smaller projects with real community buy-in. Instead, we are now being asked to bond $750,000, committing future CPA funds for the next 15 years for a $1.2 million project. The warrant states that $450,000 of this project is supposed to come from private donations. However, the same group working on Wharf Park has only raised about $9,000 on their GoFundMe page that was set up in January of 2025 for Peverly Park, despite setting a $75,000 private fundraising goal. Madam Moderator, this $450,000 in private donations feels to me like a red herring. It's written in the warrant to make us believe there's significant community support, but we see almost no evidence of it. Just like we were told Trump's ballroom would be privately funded, I have a feeling this won't be. Before I finish, I'd like to ask the committee directly, has any significant private funding for Wharf Park already been raised or firmly committed that is not shown in the warrant? If so, how much has actually been secured?
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Callahan, could you please speak to that question?
So I would call on Scott McKay, with your permission, who is the proposer from Friends of the Milton Farmers Market, to talk about the private fundraising effort.
Okay, so Mr. McKay is going to be able to speak to both. My understanding of your questions is, has there been private money raised, and if so, how much? Is that correct? Okay. Mr. McKay, you are recognized.
Thank you, Moderator Dillon, for the accommodation for me to speak tonight. In answer to the question, there's actually two different groups. One is working on Peverly Park. I'm specifically just working on Wharf Park. The two projects are different. They're not commingled. That is, Peverly Park is being managed by the Peverly Playground Planners, and the application that was put forward to CPC was actually, the land down at Wharf Park is actually select board land. So in order to get the application through, the select board is the primary applicant for this grant. I am working as a kind of facilitating this process. I was a former park commissioner and saw that there was a lot of need in town. I worked hard to get CPA passed. And I saw this opportunity down at Wharf Park. If many of you have visited, it's got a substantial slope, and the exposed root system there makes it treacherous for folks who are going to be using the park. So we stepped forward, put in an application, and this is actually our third time before CPC in this board, this group of folks here asking for money. We asked for $25,000 2 years ago to have a study done, and it also allowed us to hire a landscape architect to walk us through a pretty robust community effort to gather input on what this park should look like. We had 2 very large meetings, 4 listening sessions, probably 4, this is the 4th iteration of the select board that I've spoken in front of. We had meetings with the planning board. So it's been a community effort to get this park up, the idea for this park up and running. So the second year we came asking for help with the engineering costs of this project, which were budgeted at $157,000. CPC actually contributed $73,500 to that effort, and we personally raised $83,500 to complete the engineering process. We're at a point now where the park is about 90%, 95% We have construction documents, and we're coming for this proposal for that $750,000. As part of the engineering, we did reach out to and contracted with an independent person to develop a budget for this project. They're coming in at $1.2 million. We have a board that is overseeing this project, contractors, developers, folks from the community, members of who are on the board at 88 Wharf. Like I said, I am a member of the Milton Farmers Market Board and also Friends of Milton Recreation Board member. So wearing a lot of different hats in this, but to answer your question, the two projects are fairly different. Right now we've raised more than 50% of the funds for the engineering piece. We're estimating really somewhere between $1 million and $1.2 million. And we specifically asked the town for a certain amount of money, that $750,000. This park is not accessible. As a person who's worked with the farmers market, a good percentage of the folks are older folks who come down to that park. It's not appropriate. So with the slope, there's a significant amount of dirt work that needs to happen on this property. The infrastructure work, laying some of just to get a basic park is about $750,000. In our community outreach, we asked folks for input in terms of what they wanted in the park. We have additional amenities that we're going to offer at the park that's just not there now. And those are the specific items that we're going to be going to the community to raise money. We have a substantial group of folks who are invested in this, and like I said, I don't want to name names, but there's 4 or 5 developers in town and construction folks in town who are behind this project, who are going to make it happen. So hope that answers your question, and I can answer any other questions you guys have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what I just gathered from what you said is not only that we asking for $750,000, we've already given $25,000 to the architect to design, the design firm, and we've spent another $75,000 for engineering. So so the $750,000, there's $100,000 more. So now the project is $850,000 for the CPA, and we've raised less than $100,000. So I don't understand why the $450,000. I mean, I think it would have been a lot clearer just to say we want to spend this money. Now, when we sat here and listened to, it didn't pass the first time the CPA was brought before this body. And when they talked about the CPA, they talked about significant buy-in. I don't find $83,000 a significant buy-in from the community. Now, if you say that there's a lot of developers that want to get in on this, well, that's a lot of this MBTA zoning around there. There's a lot of new zoning in that area, so there's going to be a lot of development going on. They're also talking about redoing that intersection going down to the wharf area. So my concern is that there's going to be a lot of construction going on, and there is right now across the street at the old bank. So I think this is premature. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think it's premature, especially with all the things that are happening around down there. You can still enjoy that park. It's very nice, and you can walk around. If you're worried about the farmers market, I don't understand why we're worried about that. Because, I mean, it is a farmers market. We're bringing in mostly outside vendors from outside of Milton so we can shop there for their fresh food and produce. We have the fruit center in town that pays out taxes to the town where they don't. We talked about it when I'm reading, there's nothing on the website showing any of the design plans. They said there have been some meetings. I got very little information from the website. So I'm very concerned. I saw a picture there. It looked like we're buying tents for the vendors. That's what it looked like. We're putting concrete blocks. Now, I'm sure it's much nicer than that, but there's not any information. And to put 400, to make a significant change, and not only that, by going to a bonding mechanism, This is a precedent we're setting. So is that what we're going to do going forward, is have the CPA start bonding things out into the future and denying future generations of Miltonians the ability to pick the projects that they want funded? The reason for this was to give the community an opportunity to do things that the town couldn't afford to do. This isn't another town department. Now, if the town wants to go and fix Wharf Park, they can do a bond for the whole thing, and they can put it into the warrant, and we can vote on it. But this here denies this town citizens to really see where the money's going. It's not CPA money, it's taxpayers' money. And the match from the state has gone down. Now we have $50,000 that we're budgeting for expenses with the CPA committee, and then you have the bonding fees, and then you have the interest. It says in the warrant that this thing isn't going to be initiated until the money is raised. Well, that's not clear. That's not in the article that you're going to say yes or no to. So what's going to happen to? Is the treasurer going to go issue a bond, and then we're going to sit on the money and pay interest on it until we come up with the rest of the dollars? Or is the CPA going to be asked next year when they bring in $1 million to fund the rest of it? I have a lot of questions about this. And if we do a bond issue, what are they going to bring forward in the next couple of years? And all of a sudden, we're going to use up all of our credits. In other words, you can only bond enough that you can pay back every year on the guaranteed funds that are coming in. So what, 10 years from now, if we started this in 2010 and they started bonding, we wouldn't be talking about Wharf Park or any park, because we'd be paying on all the bonds. So I just think that there's not enough clarity in this. There's not enough information about who's going to pay for this, and it's just a mess. And I'm very disappointed, and I recommend we vote no, send it back to the committee, and let me see the money.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I don't know that Mr. Kelly had an actual question. Did you have a follow-up question for the board, or was that more of a statement? I wasn't sure if you had a follow-up question.
I don't know what to say.
Ask.
I mean,
Maybe
I
not.
think his answer just tells the story. If you listen to the answer, you can realize
Thank
that
you.
there's no 450,000.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
we're going to go to Mr. Driscoll, then to you, and then back over here, and then to you, okay? To Mr. Walker, and then anybody else that wants to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Driscoll.
Yeah, John Driscoll, Precinct 8, Town Meeting Member. I'm all for open space in parks, but once they build it, after the first and second year, there's gonna be a lot of maintenance to it, and I just don't want them to walk away from a beautiful park and have the weeds take over, half the plants die. I just want everybody to know there's a lot of maintenance that goes into these places. In such 1 or 2 years, it looks beautiful, then you gotta do the pruning, hand pruning. So I just hope that they're committed to take care of this, because I see a lot of places that just go to pot after about a year or two. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll.
Hi, Georgia Lee, Precinct 9, sorry. I agreed with this gentleman. What was your name? Brian Kelly. And you had mentioned send it back. Can we make a motion to send it back and learn more about this project? I have nothing against this project, but I do think the precedent is a little bit dangerous. If we do one project like this a year, in 10 years, we have no money to give because all of our money is tied up in projects. So I'd love to know more about this project, and I'd love to understand, are we going to do this year after year after year and have no CPA money at all? Thank you.
Thanks.
And can I make that motion?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Let us take a 2-minute break for me to confer with Town Council briefly, and then we will have a discussion about that motion and then vote on that motion.
Hello. Don't interrupt.
We got to keep it chugging along because it's 9:44. Ms. Lee, what you're asking for is a motion to refer back to the committee? Okay, that's very good. All right, the motion, all right, I'm going to bang the gavel. Okay. The motion was made and seconded. Would the warrant committee like to speak as to the motion to refer it back?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This is Jay Funling, Chair of the Warrant Committee, Town Meeting Member Precinct 3. The Warrant Committee has not yet taken a vote, unless they're quicker than I think, has not yet taken a vote on the motion to send it back. But I would like to speak to the substance of the article and some of the items that previous people have brought up, if that's in order.
Well, earlier you said no, so.
I'm sorry?
When we asked you earlier, you said no. Do you want to speak to the motion to refer back, or you want to speak to something else?
I now want to speak to the motion to refer back, but the warrant committee does not have a recommendation for people how to vote.
Okay, so you're just speaking in general, but recognizing that the warrant committee has not yet voted. So keeping that in mind, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. I do want to address previous speakers. I mostly want to address the issue of the borrowing and the financials. I'll let the people who are experts on the parks discuss the park. I would like to say, as far as should we be borrowing, think about our capital budget. You can look at page 18 and 19 to make a comparison with this and our capital budget. What do we do in our capital budget? If we're spending a small amount in our capital budget that's like under $100,000, that's not worth going out to Wall Street and borrowing. So we pay cash for that. If we're spending a large amount, like a fire engine, a street sweeper, things like that, if we're spending a couple $100,000, we go out to Wall Street. Now, the analogy here is I'm an actuary, which means I'm not an accountant, but I pretend to be. And what an accountant would tell you is that there are two reasons to borrow. One reason is, well, we just don't have the cash laying around. That's obvious. But there's another more philosophical reason for why we would borrow for either a street sweeper or for a park like this. And the reason is that the payment for the thing that we're going to enjoy should be spread over the amount of time we're going to enjoy it. We're going to make this park, that'll be enjoyed for not only 15 years, it'll presumably be enjoyed for more than 15 years of the people in this town. But to keep the borrowing within reason, we'll say we're going to borrow for 15 years. It's going to be enjoyed by people in this town for 15 years. It's going to be paid for out of the CPA bill for 15 years. That is how good accounting works. That's, it's philosophical. You're paying for it over the time you enjoy it. So we discussed that at the warrant committee when this came up, and we think that's a good reason to borrow for this instead of saying we need to pay cash. I will also mention, Madam Moderator, that we have some, I've forwarded to the warrant committee clerk some slides showing the Wharf Park, a little bit more than was shown tonight, so this body can see a bit more of the view of the Wharf Park, if any subsequent speaker wants to call them up.
Thank you, Mr. Funling. Mr. Daly, would the select board like to speak on Ms. Lee's motion to refer this article back?
We would not, but we have asked Mr. Callahan to again get into the mathematics of the bond so it's clear for the voting body.
Okay, Would anybody, I'll open that up for discussion. Would anybody like to speak specifically to the motion to refer back? So what I mean is, there is the main article, which is, we've been discussing, and then there is the motion to refer back. So we're discussing right now whether or not we should refer it back. You might have additional comments later about the main article, and we can address those if the motion to refer back fails. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, and then over here, and back and forth. Yes, Mr. Callahan.
I would rise to, Tom Callahan, Precinct 4, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. I'd rise to oppose the motion to refer back. And just a couple quick points just to clarify what I said earlier and also comment a little bit on some of the commentary. Bonding is a very very common occurrence in CPA communities. I don't have the list in front of me, but 100, so in wearing another hat outside of Milton, I chair the statewide, the advisory board for the statewide Community Preservation Coalition, which is a consortium of all the 201 communities that have passed CPA. We provide technical assistance and support to those communities. I asked our executive director this question, anticipating this tonight. 108 of the 201 communities have already bonded for projects under CPA. So it's a very common occurrence, basically. The other, I want to emphasize, I guess this is in Warren's committee comment, the other commentary is we would not, if the other fundraising doesn't happen, we would not go forward with the bond. The only way we would bond for this project is if all the funds that were needed to complete this project are raised for this project. So there is no risk to the town to bond something and then be left short. That's just not what CPC does. We have taken your awards in past years, and in some cases they have not yet been, the checks have not been cashed because those projects are not ready to go into the ground yet. So we wait until a project is shovel ready in order to fund it, and so that there's no additional risk to taxpayers. So I think I'll leave my comments there.
Thank you. Ms. Lee, we're coming back over here, and then we're going to go back over there. Do you have another comment on your motion to refer back?
Sure. Tom, thank you for that comment. And I do have one question. You said that the bond would not be created until the fundraising was complete. Is there a deadline for the completion of fundraising, or does that just keep going until fundraising is complete? Or is it a one-year cap on that?
Statutorily, there's no limits. As a policy, our committee has given projects 3-year runway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll come over here to Mr. Hiss. Mr. Hiss?
Bob Hiss, Precinct 3. A process question. Usually we have motions to refer on planning board articles, the purpose of which is to avoid defeating an article and starting the 2-year timer during which they cannot return. So we send it back for just the planning board articles. Since this is not a planning board article, it's really just a bonding article, unless town council sees something special. To Ms. Lee and the person that seconded, I think my suggestion is you withdraw the motion to refer and we just vote this up or down, because then the planning committee could come back. For example, let's say it gets defeated tonight. They could come back in October or whenever the next town meeting is with all the answers and all the data, and they're not on subject to that 2-year clock. So it would save us some time and achieve the same objective if you agreed with that thinking and said, I will withdraw the motion to refer, and we just move on with an up or down vote. And if it fails, they come back again. If it passes, we go. That's my thought. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Lee, is that something that you're interested in doing, or do you want to keep the motion to refer back? Well, it was made and seconded, so we can continue to discuss. Yes. That's okay.
I will withdraw, thank you.
Okay. Being withdrawn. Thank you very much, Ms. Lee, and thank you, Mr. Hiss. We will go, okay. I'm reminding everybody that it is 9:53. So we are zipping right along. We are doing great. People are sitting here waiting to talk, and they have been waiting for a while. So if people would like to continue to talk about it, that is fine. We have Mr. Walker, and we have two individuals over here, and I see two individuals over here. We'll start with Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker?
Leroy Walker, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 10. I rise in support of this article. I have a narrower technical question and potentially a friendly amendment. Although it's mentioned in Mr. Callahan's presentation and it's mentioned in the warrant committee comment, the fact that the debt service will be paid by CPA funds is not mentioned in the recommendation, which is what we're actually voting. So perhaps a question for town council and the treasurer: how do we make sure that when town meeting votes this article, assuming that it approves the article, that commitment that the debt service will be paid out of CPA funds is resolved? Thanks.
Mr. Klein?
Thank you. Darren Klein, Town Council, KP Law, through the moderator. Under the Community Preservation Act, borrowings that are done in accordance with the act are paid back. The debt service is paid back through Community Preservation Act funds. So it's not something that would be on the town. The town's taxpayers would not be responsible for that debt service.
Thank you. Mr. Walker had a
So,
follow-up question.
Through the moderator, the opinion is that voting this article automatically makes that requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to come over here to Ms. Tulio Agostino, and then we'll go back over there.
Diane DiTullio Agostino, Precinct 9. I was the one who did second the motion, and the question that I have, just to be sure that I would not want to make the motion again, was raised by Mr. Hiss. He was talking about the planning board. We know there's a 2-year delay there. This is submitted by the CPC, so can town council confirm that if it was referred back, there would be a 2-year wait, that we couldn't bring it back in October? That's the first question, and then I'll make a comment.
Okay.
Darren Klein, through the moderator. What was said before was absolutely correct. For this type of article, there would not be a 2-year wait period. And I think the point that I believe it was the former town moderator was saying was, if the article is voted down, the Community Preservation Committee could bring it back in October. If there's a motion to refer back to the CPC, they could also bring it back in October. So I think what he was saying is, it's the same result. It can be brought back in October. There is not a 2-year wait period for this type of article.
Thank you for clarifying that, getting the clarification on that. I really appreciate it. And I was just down there Sunday afternoon. It's absolutely gorgeous. By the way, if anyone wants to bring their children down, the geese have laid 6 eggs along the walkway, so you can go watch them being born. However, I'm very concerned with the wording. I appreciate that the CPC said they will not move forward with bonding. I understand that it shows right here that the treasurer, with the approval of the select board. So if the select board, if the wording was different, so I think that either voting it down, I won't make a motion to refer back because I think it's easier to just vote it down and have it come back with reassurances that the money is there, the raised money is there, and then move forward with, potentially move forward with bonding. Because the other thing is to read the sentence that says, the warrant committee requested and received assurances from the CPC that they are comfortable managing this debt service. You know, they're taking on a debt service. gee, did the Moody's rate their financials? I don't know what the assurances given would have been that were given. So it's a beautiful, beautiful presentation, picture. It would be great to have it. It would be great to have the select board take a vote on this article themselves. I know that you asked if they had any comment, but I'd like to know what their vote is in addition to what the warrant committee's recommendation was. And in light of the new information that was received, that this always could come back and the CPC won't move forward without that funding in place, would the warrant committee review their own recommendation, whether or not they still feel the same? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fundling, is that second question something that you would like to address at this time?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Jay Fundling, Town Meeting Member Precinct 3, Chair of the Warrant Committee. The Warrant Committee made our recommendation. We printed it in the warrant. We are not changing it.
Thank you. And I see that the Select Board is having a discussion, so we'll wait 1 second for them to be finished doing that. Mr. Daly, you're recognized.
Winston Daly, Precinct 2, Town Meeting Member, Chair of the Select Board. As you will see in the warrant, it says the Treasurer, with the instruction of the Select Board, would move forward. The Select Board would not instruct the Treasurer to move forward with the bond until the $450,000 in private funding is secured. So that is just context before the vote.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up question?
Follow-up question.
Okay.
So, and I guess I would refer to you for assistance. Is there any language that could be amended that would state the Select Board would not vote the approval without the funding in place? If you can ascertain an answer to that question, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if that's something that Town Council wants to speak upon. Otherwise,
Darren Klein, KP Law. We were having a similar discussion at the Select Board table. It would be a legal amendment to basically put that condition into the main motion. It would be a motion to amend, to add that condition. And the condition, if I understand it correctly, is that the borrowing would not take place until the other $450,000 is raised. That would be, I'm not suggesting you should or you should not do that, but that's how I understood what you're asking the amendment to be.
if that's something that somebody is interested in, somebody needs to make that motion or not. And if not, we'll go to our next speaker. I know Mr. Fahey is waiting. I'm sorry, you've been waiting. Let's go over here, and then we'll come back to Mr. Fahey since he's... Let's go ahead. Go ahead.
Rob Levash, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 10. I'm also Vice Chair of the Parks Commission and also a current member of the Community Preservation Committee. I rise to address a few points in support of this article. This article has been before the CPC for a few years now. Some of you who I've addressed before in the past, I've been a huge proponent of planning. And so typically when some applicants come before us, we'll give some seed money to do proper planning to kind of vet the project. So that, in the same regard, Scott came before our committee, we gave him some seed money, and it's been about 2 or 3 years of a process till we got to this end park that you've seen before you tonight. As an architect, I would love to go through and show you this project. It was well planned, and it's a great project. And previously, the planning board also has supported this project. A previous select board has supported this project as well. So it's important, I think, that this project really can become a gem for our town. And it's a town project. It's a community project. So another aspect of this as well is that there is a good public-private, funding for the project. And so just another point to address to this, Scott has many experience. As some of you may know, he and his wife raised a lot of money for the Milton playground planners. And some of the major 4 playgrounds that you've seen in town were raised by Scott and his wife and many others in town. So there's clear evidence that he can raise the money for the rest of this. But some of this piece is kind of the chicken or the egg. And it's a big project, it costs a lot of money. But if we can support tonight with $750,000, it's also a lot easier to get that remaining funding for the project. So I hope you'll support this project tonight and support Scott. I think it's a great project, and I think it's going to be a wonderful project for the community.
Thank you. Okay, we're coming over to you, and then we're going to come to Mr. Fahey.
Hi, I'm Carol Stalker, and I represent Precinct 5. I don't like this project. I'm 77 years old, and I'm handicapped officially. I have trouble walking. I walk usually with a cane, and I have no trouble accessing this area for bird watching or for going to the farmer's market. And I don't really see the point of spending a huge amount of money to bring in bulldozers and level it and pave everything when A, it's already accessible, at least to me, and B, and so I don't need this and I don't want it. I go down to watch the birds. How are the eagles and the herons that are the high point of this park going to do with years of bulldozers and noise and construction going on near their nesting grounds? Why are we going to say, take a beautiful natural area and wreck it and then say, this is a gem of the town? The gem of the town is the way it is now. And I think that developers who get the contracts to do all this paving, and all I saw was a lot of hard paving, are going to benefit, and the people and the developers who will take this rezoned area and put in housing and condos and then use all this paving as a selling point so they can get more money for their condos, they will benefit. But I don't think there is any real groundswell of support. In fact, I don't think there's any support by the actual people who aren't developers who actually use this area and who like it the way it is. And I didn't think there was a satisfactory answer when one gentleman asked, have you actually really raised any money for this from the community? I didn't hear a clear answer to that, because I don't think they have. I'm not contributing to it, and I don't want to contribute to it by paying $70,000 a year of debt carrying for an area that I much prefer the way it is now compared to my sense of what they're going to do to it. Though my sense of what they're going to do to it is pretty vague, because they haven't really talked about what the park itself would actually be like, other than I assume there's a bathroom somewhere. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we're going to go to Mr. Fahey.
Thank you, Moderator Dillon. Sean Fahey, Precinct 9, and also a member of the Planning Board. I have one question, but I'll make my question second. My first point is that I can't support this article with the language as it's written. Based on what Mr. Callahan said, the $450,000 would be raised before we would ask the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, to go through the process of securing a bond. That language should be in here. And although I understand what Chair Daley had said, the process that I'm familiar with in town meeting, every word matters. We write articles that are precise to what our actions are going to be. And if that's in fact what the action is going to be, the article should be written to reflect that. I'm not prepared to put language forth for that, Moderator Dillon, but it would be irresponsible for us as a town meeting to pass an article without having the proper language that reflects the intent that's been expressed by both the CPC and also by the Select Board. So I can't support it the way that it's written for that reason. And I have a question related to what Mr. Driscoll had raised. Who is responsible for the maintenance of this once it's built? Is it the CPC funds that'll maintain it for years to come, or what, does it become the responsibility of the town? Thank you.
Mr. Callahan, is that something that you can speak to?
Tom Callahan, Chair of the CPC and Precinct 4 Town Meeting Member. The maintenance is would be the responsibility of the town. The CPC, by statute, does not fund maintenance. It's capital improvements, yeah, it's so. The same is true of the improvements at Kelly Field, Andrews Park, all of the parks we have funded. The town provides ongoing maintenance for that.
Did you have a follow-up question, Mr. Fay? Go ahead.
Sean Fay, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 9. I think for the body, and again, I'm not opposed to this at all. I think it could be very positive for the town. But what's the value of that maintenance? Do we have any idea how much more we're adding to our maintenance cost, for the town?
I don't. Tom Callahan, Precinct 4, CPC Chair. I don't, but I will remind the body that this is an existing park that is maintained by the town. So it's not adding a new park, it's renovating an existing park. So, but I'm not qualified to answer that question.
Ms. Tagayas, did you have a question? And then I see several people who have already spoken, so if you would like to speak on this, please come down before we go back to people who have already spoken. Ms. Tagayas, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Cheryl Tagayas, Precinct 9. I don't have a question. I am a member of the committee, and I did want to share with members of this body that there are 2 architects and a landscape architect on our committee. We spent a lot of time with the applicant reviewing their plans over the last 2 or 3 years. We asked a lot of hard budget questions, a lot of questions about durability and maintenance, and we feel as if this project is ready to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tagayas. I see one additional new speaker. Go ahead.
Hi, Warren Lizio, Precinct 7. The project looks really nice. I won't speak to its outcome. I haven't looked into it, and so I won't speak to it. But I've heard that the problems that we're solving for in that area are that we want a safe, enjoyable area to reduce slopes and remove roots. So it sounds very nice, but I think within the warrant itself, the way that it's worded in the description is that this is an absolutely vital project. To me, vital means something that's innately necessary and critical to life. So my primary issue with this overall is the bonding authority, which when you look at the description on the website for the town of what the CPC does and Chapter 41, it doesn't provide any guardrails in how debt would be managed by the CPA committee. So I think some of my questions would be, when it comes to the annual cost, in the description it says that it's going to be approximately $60,000 a year spent. The CPA chair said that it's going to be about $70,000. So I'm trying to understand what level of diligence the warrant committee applied to researching what this would be, because saying that there are received assurances as a level of comfort makes me a little bit uncomfortable at this point. And then when it comes down to, I understand that the CPA is authorized under Chapter 41 to request a bond, but not everything legal is right? Credit card companies charge 25% interest rates. That's ridiculous, right? So if you think that at $60,000 a year, if that's what it is going to yield $750,000 in bond debt. That's about 8%. That means that with the CPA having about $1.2 million, if you bonded all of their income or all of their funds at this point, it would be about worth $15 million, right? So how, I guess my question to town council, sorry, not town council, the town administrator, Mr. Milano, is if we don't have any guidelines to this, what happens if there is a default? What oversight do we have of how the CPA is managing these funds? Because effectively, they are leveraging the dollars that Milton taxpayers are putting into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Milano?
I'll address a couple of those pieces and happy to provide further clarification if I don't hit everything. In terms of the annual debt service estimate, that's just an estimate, so that's we expect to issue these bonds over the life of 15 years, pay them back over the course of 15 years. That's approximately a range between probably $65,000 and $85,000, depending on interest rate environments. So we use a range just because we don't know what we'll actually borrow it for. As Mr. Callahan alluded, this authorization, once approved to be borrowed, would be borrowed alongside any other, and a number of other capital projects along with the town. It'll be bundled together. In terms of there was a question about a default. Like, we're issuing this bond on the full faith and credit of the town of Milton, so the town would need to default in terms of, it's not the CPC's financial management of this money. It's the town issuing bonds with assistance of our attorney bond counsel, which is Troutman Pepper Locke, our financial advisor. It's something we do on an annual basis. We issue debt pretty regularly every September, and this would be part of that. The only difference is, rather than the interest and principal on this particular bond being levied against the general fund tax levy or a debt exclusion, that debt service is going to be charged to the community preservation, and it'll appear in the warrant next year as an appropriation as part of their budget for fiscal '28. I think I hit most of what you were alluding to.
Yeah. So we have 2 additional people waiting to speak. Okay, wait. Can everybody hear what she was saying? Okay. Let me repeat it. So what she said was that given the hour, which is 10:15, and the amount of people that we've heard speaking, she would like to move to a vote. Now, we don't really have move the question in the same way in Milton as in other places. So we can limit the discussion to 5 minutes per speaker. People have generally been going, I would say, underneath of that. If the body wishes to move to a vote, we can get a general sense of that, and if people wish to not speak anymore and move to that vote, that would be fine. However, I did ask if anybody else would like to come down and speak, and I see 2 individuals who have not yet spoken. So I would like to give those individuals a chance to think and see if they would like to speak, and if they do, I would like to give them an opportunity to speak, and then we can determine whether we would like to move to a vote, and I think that that's fair. So if these 2 individuals would like to tell me whether they still would like to speak, yes, then let's do that, and then we can decide whether we want to vote. Keeping in mind, I know that it is late, and I really appreciate everybody's patience. Go ahead.
All right, Anna Varghese, town meeting member, precinct 4, vice chair of the school committee. This project looks really great and really, really interesting, but there are so many other pressing things that we need to do first, like lower Guile, like that space behind Pierce with lots of ditches that need to be fixed. If this level of passion could be put behind that and I could see an amazing presentation like this, I would happily support this, but I would like to do those other projects first. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Verghese, ma'am, you're recognized.
Andrea Lizio, Precinct 7. Hopefully this is good in closing.
just feels like a good opportunity here. Sometimes when I'm in this meeting, I feel like stepbrothers when they're giving their worldwide prestige presentation of, you know, innovation, technology, hubs, whatever there's, you know, saying big words that are supposed to cover the meaning and the backing behind something. Like, this is about community, this is that. There's no doubt, like, I think that everybody has good motivations here and the end result. But I would just ask that the questions that come up, it's not to poo-poo some good ideas, but to at least understand and respect all these questions and concerns that come up, rather than thinking it's you know, not a concern for the community or our spaces or a level of involvement that we just want to say no to some things. But there's some really relative concerns to this that matter to make it work. So that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Lizio. Okay, so I've confirmed with this side of the room that no one in addition wants to speak again. And I see Mr. Hiss over here. Mr. Hiss, would you like to speak again on this article? And then we will move to a vote, seeing no other people.
Yes, Bob Hiss, Precinct 3. I have some new content, new idea. Ignoring the merits, my concern is timing because of the 4% interest rate. If you look at the outstanding debt table we have on 91, you can see that other than right after the financial crisis of 08, we've been able to borrow at closer to 2%. And we've been at that 4% rate again now for a couple of years, as we all know, due to inflation in the Federal Reserve. If we, let's say, gambled a year and rates start to drop and we approach that 2% rate, we could cut the interest rate in half, save money for other CPA projects, and still be able to go forward with this project. So, ignoring the merits, my thought is timing. And it would take an extraordinary inflation rate to overcome the savings we would get by getting a 3% rate or a 2% rate. So I would urge a no vote now and watch the rates and then come forward with the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to close the discussion. Yes. I'm sorry, yes. Mr. McKay, did you wish to speak again?
Thank you again, moderator, for the accommodation. Just a little bit of background. I am no longer a town meeting member, and I no longer read the warrant. So I was not super prepared to come and speak. I found out about this last week. I was on vacation, and I've been sick this week, so I apologize for not being as prepared as I normally am. Our warrant committee chair was able to pull up some slides of what this project is actually going to look like to quell some of the fears that are out there in terms of what this is actually going to be. So if you can pull up some of those slides. And in the meantime, I just wanted to mention that we did go through a very public process on this. And we got support from across the political aisle. Folks that may not talk to each other in other circumstances worked together to come up with this design. It met the needs of a lot of different folks in our community. We went through a long process to find out what the community actually wanted on this. It is not going to be paved over. And Lower Guile is actually funded. We're just waiting to get out of court on that. So this project will not be taking money from Lower Guile or any other project that is on the table right now. So if you want to go back one slide, this is actually looking down from Adams Street at the park. And if you notice, there is a significant slope difference. So we had to put an entryway at the front down onto an open circular walkway around the park. That was purposefully done. If you notice in the top right-hand corner, there's an additional park that's already there with a concentric circle like that. We wanted to match that aesthetic in this particular project. The stairs that are there also match some of the other stairs that are in the area that go up to Adams Street. And we're hoping eventually that the lighting on this will also include that walkway that comes down from Adams Street into this park. If you could skip forward a couple slides. Again, I'm not prepared for this, so I'm kind of shooting from the cuff here. One more slide from that. All right, keep going. Is that? Okay, so again, that's just a mirror of what the other park looks like compared to what the park is on the left-hand side. One of the major focuses that we got back from the community is to have a more usable green space. Right now, there's a deteriorating tree that is right in the middle of this. It lost a third of its canopy 2 years ago in a storm, crushed one of our picnic tables that was out there. Thank God the market was not going on at the time. That tree will be removed, and it will open up this park to be an entire green space for community activities. We envision theater programming, music programming, other types of programming that will be able to use this space. As of right now, this is used for storage for the boathouse and the farmer's market. Those are the only two actively used, two programs that are actively involved in the park now. We're hoping this is going to be a central park for this neighborhood. Our Master Plan Implementation Committee focused on better green spaces, accessible spaces at the waterfront specifically. This project addresses those plans. You want to skip to the next picture? Is that it? All right. This is what it would look on market day. This was just, again, a slide specifically for the market, if we can go forward. So again, the green space in the middle, there's a beech tree that exists now that will be staying in the top corner. There will be a pollinator garden that is put in here as well. There is bike parking on the top right corner. There will be additional tables in the back, seating throughout the lawn area. And if you look on the left-hand side, you see some dash marks that are coming down. That's actually a slope. We wanted to take advantage of the slope. If there are going to be theater events here and music events here, we wanted to have some people be able to sit out on the lawn, look out over whatever they're there to partake in, and see the water. We got some input from our planning board. We had originally had it where the orientation of the park was not faced towards the water. We took that into account when we redesigned this park to what it is now. If you can go on to the next slide, please. And I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time.
No, I'll
but
tell you.
There are those
Don't
things
worry.
that are kind of sprinkled throughout the park. Like I said, the bicycle parking. There will be a historic monument opportunity for folks who want to donate to be able to either name the park after someone, whatever it happens to be. We plan on selling bricks within this to raise money. What we did with this design was to really strip down the park, and we're asking for that $750,000 for the basics to make this an ADA accessible park. All the other amenities to this park will be paid for with fundraising. So there will be a small children's organic playground that's involved in here. One of our big supporters who actually sits on our board owns 1 Elliott Street, and he owns this building that's right here. He has a huge investment also in the Bank of America building. This park is going to be a cornerstone for this neighborhood with all the other development that's going on. The shape it is now, it's not usable. And whether it's accessible or not, I have some health issues. I'm not going to be able to walk this park too much longer myself. So allowing this access at our waterfront for folks with disabilities is a huge plus for this project. If you can move to the next slide, please. Again, just for scope in terms of how big the size is, those are actual life to size, what people would look like inhabiting the space. If you can move one more, please. And this is from the backside, face the T towards the park. Like I said, there's a pollinator garden there and some picnic benches also. So that's a little bit more about the project. I'm sorry that this probably should have started the evening, but again, not prepared to present at town meeting and not knowing what sort of opposition there would be to this park. I think it's a great project. I think it was and will still remain a community bonding type of a place. It was born from a lot of community input, and I believe that this space is going to provide a cornerstone place for additional community programming and use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. All right. We are now going to move to a vote. As a note, this needs a 2/3 majority. So we'll open it up for a vote now. And then we'll talk about what happens next. Okay, it's 72%, so it passes the 2/3, 141 yes, 52 no, 4 abstain. It is 10:30. We have between Articles 34 to 42. I'm happy to keep going, or we can adjourn. Okay, seconded? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, as a note, please return your clickers. And this meeting is adjourned. We will see you back here on Monday, not tomorrow. Don't come. Monday. Thank you. Please take your trash and all of your personal belongings. Thank you.